Welcome to today's Explainer. I'm absolutely thrilled you're here because we're going to do something truly fascinating today. We're taking a single, powerful sentence, just one brief text prompt, and we're going to treat every single word within it like a critical building block of visual storytelling. It's honestly amazing how much narrative depth, emotion, and cinematic direction can be packed into a handful of words when they're chosen with absolute precision. Our focus today? Surviving Roman soldiers. And by the end of this explainer, you'll see exactly how a literal masterclass in scene construction can be hidden in plain sight. Let's get right into it. Camera follows surviving Roman soldiers regrouping among ruins, helping wounded, reforming lines, exhausted but determined faces, sunlight breaking through smoke, emotional cinematic tone, slow, steady movement. Wow, it's almost poetic, isn't it? I really want to highlight how this one, dense sentence holds an entire emotional and cinematic narrative just waiting to be unpacked. It doesn't just tell us what's happening. No, it dictates the environment, the psychological state of the subjects, the lighting, the mood, and even the mechanical movement of the viewer's perspective. It's a complete blueprint.
Section 1. The core action. Let's ground ourselves in the physical reality of the scene.
Okay, let's dive into this by looking at three specific physical actions extracted straight from the text. Regrouping among ruins, helping wounded, and reforming lines. Now, what might initially read as just a simple, comma-separated list is actually a highly structured, forward-moving narrative process. Think of it as a sequence of survival. First, you have the chaotic gathering, regrouping among the ruins of whatever devastation just went down. Second, there's the immediate, empathetic response, right? Helping the wounded, which establishes the human stakes of the battle. And finally, the return to discipline and order, reforming lines. This progression takes us from absolute vulnerability straight back to military readiness in just 3 quick beats.
Section 2. An environment in ruins, despair versus resilience.
And this brilliantly illustrates the exact visual tug-of-war happening within the text. On one side, we have elements of despair, the ruins, the wounded, the smoke, and those exhausted faces. These words anchor the scene heavily in tragedy and recent violence. But directly opposed to them are the elements of hope and resilience, sunlight breaking through, determined faces, and the act of reforming lines. By placing these dark elements directly against the hopeful imagery, the text creates this highly compelling mini-narrative out of minimal words. It's like the environment and the soldiers are in a dialogue, actively fighting back against the despair.
I actually want to focus intensely on this specific phrase right here, sunlight breaking through smoke. In the context of visual storytelling, this acts as way more than merely a weather description or an instruction for lighting. It's absolutely crucial. It's a thematic turning point in the text. You see, the smoke represents the confusion, the destruction, and the immediate past of the battle. But the sunlight piercing through it, that represents clarity, survival, and the immediate future. It's a brilliant visual metaphor handed to us right in the middle of a literal description, signaling to the audience that the worst is over and hope is actively piercing through the darkness.
Section 3. Framing the emotion, the psychological state. What's incredibly interesting here is the specific contrast in the soldiers' faces, exhausted but determined. These two words sit right next to each other, creating a profound, palpable tension. Exhausted tells us about their physical reality, right? Their bodies are pushed to the absolute limit, battered by those ruins and the smoke we just discussed. But determined tells us about their mental resolve. Their minds are literally overriding their broken bodies to reform those lines. This internal clash, that's exactly what makes the characters instantly compelling and deeply, deeply human.
The text goes even further by explicitly demanding an emotional cinematic tone. Let's define that exactly as dictated by the implications of the source text. It's the specific mood prescribed by the text designed to evoke deep empathy and resonance. Basically, it separates the literal events on screen from the intended emotional impact on the viewer. By writing emotional cinematic tone, the author is stepping back from just describing what's happening to dictate exactly how the scene should feel overall. It tells us, hey, this isn't an action documentary. It's a resonant, dramatic experience designed to make you really feel the weight of survival.
Let's move to Section 4, the cinematic execution, and see how this builds through the technical lens.
The text gives us 2 incredibly specific technical directions here. The camera follows the surviving Roman soldiers, and it uses slow, steady movement. Let's break that down for a second. By having the camera follow them, we're placed intimately alongside the soldiers, making us active participants in their regrouping rather than just, distant observers. And that slow, steady movement perfectly matches both the exhausted physical reality of the soldiers and the determined, relentless pacing of their survival. Think about it. A frantic, shaky camera would imply ongoing chaos, but a slow, steady movement? That implies the chaos as past, and what remains is a solemn, deliberate march forward. When we put it all together, these elements beautifully lock into place like a giant puzzle. Think about the journey we just took through this single sentence. The forward-moving action of reforming lines, the ruined environment clashing with the hopeful sunlight, the emotional tone of exhausted determination, and of course the slow, steady camera movement. They all interlock perfectly in this text to construct a vivid, unified narrative moment. It's a true masterclass in how every single descriptive word can be engineered to pull the viewer deeper into the experience.
Which brings us to the end of our deconstruction today. We've seen how the prompt actively builds forward momentum, taking the soldiers from total chaos right into the breaking sunlight. So, I'm going to leave you with this final thought, inspired by the text's beautiful trajectory. With lines reformed and the smoke clearing, what awaits them in the light? Keep that question in mind the next time you read a descriptive sentence, and remember just how much power lies in the smallest details. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and keep exploring the incredible architecture of visual storytelling.